Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sounds Like Sam. It is week 14 in the NFL, and you know what that means. We got some news for you. We have Thursday Night Football recap, as well as trending players in fantasy football. That's on the agenda for today's fantasy football episode. This episode is brought to you by bullseyefantasyfootball.com. And yeah, so that's going to be the agenda for today. Let's just start off with the news going around in the NFL. The top stories, according to ESPN NFL, would be Deebo Samuel is going to play versus the Bengals. Giants, Kenny Galladay, and Sterling Shepard are likely to play. Saints running back Alvin Kamara is a full go after missing 4 weeks. Chargers, Keenan Allen is out. Mike Williams is expected to play this week. Bears wide receiver Allen Robinson expects to play versus the Packers. The Vikings running back Dalvin Cook was a quote-unquote warrior after a 205-yard return to the NFL from his injury from the prior week, 205 in terms of rush yards. And then the Chargers place leading wide receiver Keenan Allen on the COVID list, which I guess it makes sense given how he is now out for this weekend's game. So another week of a lot of big news. I think really the two main ones would be Alvin Kamara is a full go this week, and then Keenan Allen is out. And I guess the third one is how good of a comeback game Dalvin Cook had versus the Steelers, which that is a great leading up into point for the next agenda item, the Thursday Night Football game. I had the pleasure of watching maybe 5 minutes of it because I was at work during the time it started, and I had to listen to it on the way home. And kind of being a Steeler fan, I turned it off because I couldn't listen to them do so poorly anymore. Like I just had to stop because I was like, oh my god, what is going on? Because it was just another one of those weeks where after they just beat the Baltimore Ravens, then they go on to lose to the Minnesota Vikings. Fantastic job, Steelers. You're doing so good. Okay, no, in all seriousness, it's pretty... that's not good. Not a good look for the Steelers to lose kind of in that bad of a fashion. It just things haven't gone any better really since the last year when they played the Browns in that first playoff game. I think they just haven't really been the same Steeler team that we're used to. Partially because I think it's their offensive line is really not where it has been in the past. It's still very work in progress, very beginner realm offensive line. So we definitely need to improve, or they need to improve on that in the future. And if I were them, like that should be a heavy target in the draft, would be offensive linemen. But I mean, obviously they were able to make a comeback. I'm almost positive the ending score of the game was 29-36. Vikings winning that game. Let's just see. Of course, it's not the first one up. Yeah, 36-28. So I was almost right. I pulled that one out of my butt. But anyways, so Steelers lost pretty badly, and I mean it was even worse from the first half was just awful for the Steelers. I mean, they didn't even score any points in the first half. Like, literally, it was 0 in the first quarter, 0 in the second. Then they scored 7 in the third, and then they scored 21 in the fourth. just the Steeler things, I guess. So it was they created their own demise partially because they could not stop Dalvin Cook. I mean, this was given he had 205 yards of rushing against them, and I'm pretty sure he had 150 in the first half alone. So that is really bad. It doesn't really help that TJ Watt went out of the game, but it's like, come on, guys, like really giving up 205 yards to Dalvin Cook. That's not okay. I guess like the only plus is that we didn't give that many yards to like Justin Jefferson. When Adam Thielen was out, so we held him to 7 receptions, 79 yards, and 1 touchdown. And then it looks like KJ Osborne, another Vikings wide receiver, had a pretty decent day. 3 receptions, 83 yards, and a touchdown. So, and like even Kirk Cousins didn't really do that great throwing the ball just because they were having so much success running the ball. Good to see that at least he had 2 interceptions, but Big Ben needs to do a little better. 28 for 40 for 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Najee had a pretty decent day. 20 carries, 94 yards, 1 touchdown. And then it looks like Chase Claypool was their leading receiver. 8 receptions, 93 yards, 0 touchdowns. And then they also held Deontay Johnson, their wide receiver 1, to 5 receptions, 76 yards, 0 touchdowns. So, not very good overall. I mean, I don't even know what to really say. At least they came back, but, with everything that they have, the talent that they have, they should have done a lot better than the way they played. And then the whole Chase Claypool thing at the end it's just like, dude, like, what are you doing? He just is selfish, like, first down pose basically cost them an opportunity to at least tie the game. So I don't know what he was thinking. He was being very selfish, not really team oriented, and it looks not only bad for the Steelers, but it looks really bad on him. I guess more so on him. And I mean, to me, the thing that comes to mind is, like, we have another Juju on our hands. And no offense to Juju, but as cool of a person as he seems, he's just kind of, and I guess maybe they're different, but it's just like they're two people with such personalities. I don't know, I just don't think they're like super mature when it comes to and serious about the game as they should be. Mature may not be the right word, but I think serious about the game is more important. Like, in those situations where, you have an opportunity to win the game and you decide to, let me pose for 7 seconds when we only have like 12 seconds left. It only gave them one play left with like 40 yards where they could have easily, at least had an opportunity to gain like 20 yards and then try for a touchdown or try for 2. I don't know, but I just think they're going. I think they are going to do something about him. I don't know if that means demote him and have more opportunities for James Washington in the future, but they need to kind of teach him a lesson and be like, hey, can't do that anymore. For now on, we're gonna go to him now, and it's kind of a shame because he has such he's such physically gifted, not only in speed and height and athletic abilities, but he's a solid player and he's a young guy. So that's like the only benefit of this is that he's a young player, and that hopefully that Mike Tomlin can mend his mind, flex his mind around in the right direction. But yeah, other than that, I was very disappointed in the way Chase Claypool played, and I really hope moving forward that they fix that issue with him, that he knows that that doesn't, you can't do that anymore. but that's like your one shot, and because we really don't want another Antonio Brown on the team in terms of him being that personality. Like, I mean, obviously we want another Antonio Brown as a player, but at least he was able to keep everything under wraps, and at least he was able to, when it came to the game and winning, like he did his job and got it down and got the ball back for them. Didn't really do anything selfish, but I guess different levels of personality issue with that. But yeah, that was my spiel on the Chase Claypool thing, and that was the recap of the Thursday night football game for you. Moving on to the trending players in fantasy football, I have a couple for you. I think this went well as a segment last week, so bring it back for another week in this week 14 episode. So just to get it started, we're going to start with the trending upwards players. I have quarterback Taysom Hill of the New Orleans Saints, wide receiver KJ Osborne for the Minnesota Vikings, the defense for the Kansas City defense, wide receiver Julio Jones, and then Dontrell Hilliard versus he's the Titans running back. Okay, so starting from the top with quarterback Taysom Hill, obviously versus the Jets this week is a very intriguing play that even though this isn't a start-sit episode, I would actually say start him because, he did a really good job versus the Cowboys in his first starting role of the 2021 year. He had 20 fantasy points, and even though he didn't look great as a football quarterback, he did really well as a fantasy quarterback against a really solid Dallas defense. So going against the 32nd worst fantasy or team versus fantasy quarterbacks, I'd say this is a great matchup for him, and I think he is trending upwards, especially with Alvin Kamara coming back and being healthy. I think that's going to be a huge upside for them, and if you have Kamara, definitely make sure he's on your starting roster this week, especially because Mark Ingram is also out. So Kamara is also on the up and up with that, but Taysom Hill is also trending upwards and a guy to start. Next is wide receiver KJ Osborne of the Minnesota Vikings. I know he already played this week, so not exactly a guy you can start this week, but if Adam Thielen is out next week, this could be a good start for you. In the last 2 weeks, he's had 16 targets, brought in 7 receptions for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. So obviously he's a guy that they're looking for in the red zone. And if you really are looking for somebody, if you had Adam Thielen and you need a wide receiver to put in your flex or something, I think he could be a good guy to go to. Another guy would be wide receiver Julio Jones. Not exactly a name you wouldn't know if you play fantasy. I mean, Julio Jones has been a staple in the NFL for a really long time. This year kind of struggled with injuries, and being on a new team hasn't really done that much. But with A.J. Brown out this week on IR and having Ryan Tannehill kind of struggling lately without any really receiving threats, I think Julio could be a huge playmaker for the Titans this week, and a guy that they really look to get their offense starting again, because they really don't have anything especially with Derrick Henry still out. So I would actually consider starting Julio as a flex in a deeper league. Other than that, especially because he is going against the Jaguars, so I do like this matchup, and hopefully it gets them back on track. And then the next guy is also a guy on the Titans, Dontrell Hilliard versus the Jags. I like him actually more than Devontae Foreman, who is their other running back, who they split carries with. But I think Dontrell Hilliard, he had better stats in his last 2 games. He had 80 yards on the ground on 12 carries, And then I think he had like 10 targets and 8 receptions in the week 12 matchup that he had. So they're obviously looking for him and trying to get him involved with Derrick Henry not there. But I think he ran the ball a little better than Foreman, but he's a guy to look out for. And if he does have another breakout game, definitely keep him on the watch list. And he's a guy on the up and up. I guess bonus guy would be DJ Moore versus the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons are ranked 26th versus NFL wide receivers in fantasy, so that's very good news. Fire Joe Brady probably needed to happen. Offense wasn't really clicking, but they are making it a priority to find him, and against a division rival, hopefully that they can get something going with DJ Moore. He had 10 targets for over 100 yards in his Week 13 game. So going into this game, I expect a solid performance from DJ Moore. So those were my trending players on the up and up. Now my trending downward players are going to be quarterback Ryan Tannehill, wide receiver Jamar Chase, wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders, and then bonus would be actually, that's a bonus for the up and up, Antonio Gibson. So I guess I'll just mention him real quick. He's had 16.6 or more fantasy points in his last 3 out of his 4 starts in the last 4 weeks. That's very, very good. He's honestly been trending way up. Been using him a lot in the Washington football team offense. So definitely look to start him this week. I really like him going forward, and definitely a trending player in the right direction. So going back to my downward trending players, starting off with Ryan Tannehill, quarterback for the Titans. Just listed a few Titan players I liked, but Ryan Tannehill has not been playing that great. It makes sense. They didn't have really any receivers. They didn't have Derrick Henry. Couldn't go off really any play action that well, and he's kind of struggling because of it. So having Julio back definitely helps, but I think it's more of a benefit for Julio going against the Jags than it is for Ryan Tannehill. But anything can really happen in the NFL. Maybe he does find a way to get 300 yards versus the Jaguars team, but honestly, I doubt it. So for now, I would probably sit him or until they get at least AJ Brown back. Like I don't see a reason why you really need Ryan on the team. Definitely start somebody else. Next guy is wide receiver Jamar Chase. He's been on the downward trend. He came out hot in the league at the beginning of the season. Lately has not been as good, but still obviously has done a really phenomenal job as a rookie wide receiver in the league. He still has 10 plus touchdowns. So that's very good, but over the last 4 weeks, he's only had 1 touchdown in his past 4 games, and I think only clipped 10 points once in standard leagues over the past 4 weeks. So he's kind of on the downward trend. And then the last guy is wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders, whose best receiving yards over the last 4 weeks has been 28 receiving yards. Otherwise, he's just had, I think it was like 27, 26, 22 yards, and then 28 yards. So not exactly what you were expecting out of Emmanuel Sanders on the Bills, especially how well they did last season. But honestly, their offense as a whole has not really looked the way it did last season, and a little bit disappointed in the way they played. But I definitely wouldn't look to start Emmanuel Sanders anytime soon. So I would definitely look for other players, and he's a guy who's been trending downwards and probably will continue to trend downwards as well. So that was really it for this episode. I gave you some news. I gave you my trending players. I gave you the Thursday Night Football recap. So that is it for the episode. If you have any questions or comments regarding fantasy football or the topics I just mentioned, feel free to DM me on Twitter or Instagram at BullseyeFantasy, And I really hope you have an excellent week 14. Good luck to your team, and thanks for watching and listening. Peace.